So next I want to tackle the overdrive assembly. So the first thing I want to do is install bushings, so we'll go to the press and get them pressed in. So I'm going to start with the front bushing. So I don't have an exact bushing driver for this size, so I'm just going to use a much larger bushing. The main thing here is you want to get this so it's as evenly, even in the bore as possible. And you're just going to seat it flush. Let's see if I can get it to go down just a hair more. Okay, I think that did it. Yep. This one I have a bushing driver that matches it perfectly. I don't like the way that started. So here it is, just below flush. So I want to seat it maybe about 1/8 to 1/4 below flush. That should work. So just double check it with your input shaft. And it's nice and smooth. So next step is to lube up the piston pocket and then go ahead and seat your piston in place. Make sure you get all the sealing surface. Same with the piston. And you just work it into place. Back to the press to install the snap ring. Alright, so I got the drum set up in the press, and I'm using a universal clutch spring compressor tool. This one's made by Ken Moore. The tool number is DT-47867. And I like to use this tool whenever dealing with stubborn return springs, larger snap rings, things like that. It's a lot easier to do it here than it is to try and maintain pressure on the foot press. Crank it down to expose the snap ring groove, and then I'll use these larger pliers to try to get the snap ring into place. Now this thing likes to fight me. Every one of these transmissions I do, it's like a battle getting this snap ring in. And these pliers are kind of awkward to work with, so it might take me a couple of tries to get it. All right, there it goes. Now we got the return spring installed, so let's finish building up the drum. First thing I'll do is I'll install the sprag. You just want to get it on the cam. And then to check, make sure that you have it installed correctly. You can take your sprag race with the side with the grooves face down, and then what you're going to do is you're going to rotate, kind of working counterclockwise to seat it onto the sprag. If the sprag is installed correctly, it should free spin counterclockwise and lock clockwise. So free spinning and then locks clockwise. All right, next we'll put the stack up into the drum. So we have 2 frictions, 2 steels, our pressure plate, and then our Transgo snap ring. So you'll notice that the pressure plate has a step machined into it. This is not factory. I actually had to have this done. When I initially had the drum all together, I realized that I was not getting my required minimum 30 thousandths clearance with the clutch pack. So, you know, this snap ring's a little bit thicker than the one that came off of here. And when that happens, and it sometimes happens with these transmissions, but when it does, the best thing to do, you know, unless you're not going to run this snap ring, best thing to do is just machine the pressure plate with a step like this, so that you kind of preserve the integrity of the plate itself, you know, structurally anyway, but at the same time you can get your required clearance. And then you can machine it to whatever clearance you want. So we'll put the rest of this together, then I'll air check and do a do a clutch clearance measurement. All right, so now we'll put together the Overdrive planetary carrier group. Start with the ring gear and intermediate shaft. So one thing I want to point out, these 2 snap rings are not the same. They're similar in size, but they're not quite the same. This side has both ends, which are tabbed, you know, or you know, kind of shaped like this. Whereas the snap ring for the intermediate shaft to ring gear is only tabbed on one side. The other side is square. All right, so next thing we'll do is we will install the bearing onto the planet. Goes like this. and just drop it on in. All right, then install your thrust washer. Just line up the little tab here with one of the tabs on the planet, or cutouts on the planet, I should say. Follow it up with your sprag brace, snap ring, and the last thing to do is install the intermediate thrust bearing. All right, let's see what kind of clearance we have. So here's your coast clutch feed port through the pump. This corresponds to this, kind of beveled ridge right here. It's not quite returning to zero. So it looks like I have 42 or 43 thousandths. So spec is between 30 and 50 thou. And again, I kind of wanted to be on a little bit higher side of that. So 43 thousandths works out for me. All right, moving on to the 2.4 piston housing. So first we'll install the lip seals. And the lip seals will face down. So here's the lip. It's going to face down into the pocket of the seal. And then in the case of the intermediate clutch piston, the seal is going to face in this direction away from the lugs. So here's the lip, and here's your apply surface. The lip's going to face you, like in this direction. Work the seal into place, lube it up, next your intermediate clutch apply piston, same deal. Make sure the seal's fully seated all the way around. just put it in place. Now the location for the overdrive piston. And the piston itself. And it should settle right into place. There's your return spring. And then the spiral snap ring. What we have to do is compress that spring so that we can get the snap ring in. Alright, back at the press again. So, I have the assembly all set up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the snap ring and I'm just going to wind it around here along the perimeter. And then I'm going to use this tool to compress both the snap ring and the return spring until the snap ring falls into place in the snap ring groove. So you gotta get the tool perfectly centered. When it's compressed, you may have to persuade it in with like a hammer and a screwdriver, just tapping along the perimeter. Alright, so back on the bench with it. And all I really did off camera is take my screwdriver and kind of just go around the perimeter and kind of just like tap everything into place. Just making sure everything was seated in the groove. You got the locking tabs engaged. And you just go around it a whole bunch of times until you're satisfied that it is 100% installed. All right, let's work on the center support. So as I mentioned in the intro, this center support was machined to accept a stabilizer ring in the case, so that this way it seats flush and has a good foundation so that it doesn't cock sideways, during operation. All right, just take your new gasket and then just line up the holes. And then same with the stator support, or excuse me, the stator itself. So there's the support and the stator. All you're going to do is just line the holes up. So 3/8mm bolts. And these get anywhere from 90 to 120 inch-pounds. So I'll go to 105 again, right in the middle. And then you just want to check your bearing. Just make sure it spins freely. If not, you'll need to replace it. Next, we'll go ahead and install our sealing rings. These are metal, and these are for the direct clutch. Okay, so center support's done. Well, it's almost done. Want to make sure that we add our thrust washer.